something different, right? Fucking hell. We are going to now talk about Donald Trump. We're going to be talking about Donald Trump's interview with Trey Yingst. I watched it last night after the stream. It was, baby shit as always. We'll get into that. It's situation monitoring time. The war is back on, ladies and gentlemen. The war in the Strait of Hormuz is back on. America is striking Iranian targets with regular frequency. It's not, it hasn't gotten to the same intensity that it was at the peak of Operation Epic Fury. However, it's getting up there. Iran has shut off the Strait of Hormuz once again. There are some real issues. There is an imminent crisis. There's an imminent energy crisis once again. So that's where we're at. AP News Alert, Dubai, United Arab Emirates, U.S. Military Central Command says it resumes strikes on Iran in daylight, part of an increasing tempo of attacks. Are we going to run out of oil? The United States of America? Probably not. Having said that, however, are the Asian markets going to suffer? Absolutely. Africa's going to suffer. Asia's going to suffer. And most likely Europe is going to suffer. So that is where we are at. Does Donald Trump care about any of this? Well, seemingly not so much. At least he is making it seem like he doesn't care about this. J.D. Vance went on Joe Rogan, by the way. We'll obviously cover that as well. J.D. Vance is aggressively trying to find a lane for himself amidst this crisis because he is going to be the one who is held responsible at the end of this process. Donald Trump has basically locked him down with the Iran situation. Marco Rubio has been noticeably absent from the equation, with one exception where he was involved in, I think, the Lebanese Israeli normalization agreement, which is obviously bullshit, but it doesn't matter. He's not touching this with a 10-foot pole, even though he's the Secretary of State. And J.D. Vance, on the other hand, is getting absolutely cumstered and dumpstered here. Marco Rubio is responsible for the Latin American side of things, the Donroe Doctrine, and all the South American initiatives. I mean, he's a demonic little pervert in a different way. Does it worry you that war is getting more common, even with major wars like Ukraine and Iran? And do you think China will move on Taiwan? I think China is just going to hold its defensive posture. Why the fuck would they do anything? America's literally committing suicide right now. Very publicly so. And also killing the rest of the world in the process. This is, why would China do anything to rock the boat in any way, shape, or form?
Worse than the last. He says he's saving energy targets for last and did reiterate that Iran has no choice but to make a deal. Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yingst is at the White House, where he spoke exclusively with President Trump earlier today about his plans for the Middle East. Good evening, Trey.
Yeah, Brett, good evening. President Trump told Fox News that strikes against Iran will continue tonight and expand next week if the Iranians are unwilling to make a deal. Here's more of our exclusive interview from the White House.
I'm so disappointed in Trey. I really thought he was like, I didn't expect much of him. He's a Fox News guy. But like, as someone who's spent a good deal of time with Hezbollah, someone who spent a good deal of time with Hamas, as someone who was like, one of the few major American. Hello. Oh, we're back. Okay. It's too hot outside, isn't it? My AC is not working, so the only AC in the downstairs is in the studio. So she went outside. She walked around the house, smelled stuff, and now she's back. She's like, nope. Man, how's your AC always broken? I live in America. That's like the most American experience, chatter. Are you kidding me? What are you talking about? Year round, the AC is fine. As soon as summer rolls around, boom. Get a coaster for your drink, you psycho. I used to have one. I don't know where it went. It's fine. You need an HVAC guy? Got someone? There's already an HVAC guy inside of my luxurious mansion currently working. Shave her down to the skin just on her body? Are you kidding me? That's the worst possible thing you can do to dogs like this. Her coat is what allows her to do temperature regulation. If you actually trim their hair, first of all, she got two different kinds of coats. She got the human hairstyle coat, and then she got fur. The human style hair coat doesn't grow back. That's number one. Number two, if I were to shave, never shave your dogs. Never shave your dogs, because their fur coat is what helps them regulate the temperature. If you shave them, if you shave their coats, they will, one, potentially get sunburned, ironically enough, and have a bunch of different like spots, and two, they will no longer be able to regulate the temperature evenly. You never shave double-coated dogs. Yeah, coat insulation works both ways. It keeps the heat away from them. Yeah. They sweat through their toe beans. I think they sweat through their mouth. I don't think they sweat. Dogs don't really sweat. Anyway, getting back to it, Trey Yingst talking to President Donald Trump.
Mr. President, thank you for speaking with Fox News.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We have seen extensive U.S. strikes against Iran for 3 consecutive nights now. This comes after the Iranians attacked vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. How would you describe what is happening at this moment? Has the war resumed?
Well, I guess you could define it any way you want, but certainly we're beating them up really badly. They have to be beat up. We're hitting them very, very hard. We're hitting every single thing that they have along the shore, along the...
Wow. This is new. Hadn't heard this one before in the last 150 days or so. Thank you. Thank you for this unique and new insight, Mr. President. I certainly feel confident about the war and its prospects now. It is increasingly becoming clear to me and anyone else with working brain cells that this is turning into a forever war. Okay? Now, the reality of the matter is the Americans are not exactly excited at the prospect of yet another forever war. We've seen the YouGov poll that came out recently. Even Republicans, majority of Republicans want this war to end, and a plurality of MAGA wants this war to end immediately. A plurality of MAGA, 49% of MAGA want this war to end. Okay? Majority of Republicans, plurality of MAGA. That's massively consequential. On the other side, though, as long as there's no boots on the ground and troops returning in coffins, flag-draped coffins, from the American perspective, we have an unlimited appetite for death and destruction. Unless, gas prices obviously get completely out of control. And there is a likelihood that gas prices might go completely out of control. So on that front, who knows how much more appetite Americans have? Will it cause, unless there is an economic collapse, will it actually cause some sort of crisis that leads to revolt? Who can say? But Trump's calculation here is, as long as this is just tit for tat strikes, as long as it's happening over there, and even if the Strait of Hormuz is closed, we can still somehow manage the markets, manipulate the markets, then it's fine, right? That's his bet, that the cattle won't revolt. And to be fair, so far so good. The cattle has yet to revolt. Americans are cattle, for sure. Phil Stewart, Iran state TV cites Iranian army as saying that it targeted a hostile U.S. vessel with cruise missiles. Now that could change the dynamic a little bit, right? There's this is from 2 days ago. We don't know what took place. We don't know if they actually successfully struck American vessels, but if there is any footage of in the tit for tat. If the Americans, for example, try to transit some oil tankers through the strait and the Iranians successfully hit and get Iranians are if the Iranians are capable of downing a naval asset, that would probably tip this whole thing over. Okay? As I've said over and over again, but who knows? Who knows? It is clear to me that Donald Trump is following through on the Professor Jiang method, because one aspect of this interview where Trump reveals that we could potentially send military, but not American soldiers, we got other soldiers, was very interesting. Now, is it Trump just talking shit? Is he a Professor Jiang head? You were saying this on the first day laws. Yes. What do you mean? I've been right about virtually everything that I've been saying. Look at where we're at. Look at where we're at.
The waterfront, you know, if you look at the Strait of Hormuz, it's now, we're finding it hard to find where they have anything. We have to stop it. We have to keep it open. I was going to charge a fee, but instead they'd rather spend a lot of money in the United States, which frankly is better because I don't like the idea of a fee. It's got to remain free because otherwise.
Yeah, he backed away from that fee system so fast. It's really funny. Like, it's so clear. It is so clear that that was like a late night, on the shitter, in the moment decision. I will say one thing that I find particularly interesting, a little funny about this is Trump is just copy pasting what Iran has been doing. I've been thinking about this a lot. He obviously did the blockade after Iran did the blockade, and he was like, oh, I'm going to do the blockade. This is a good idea. Now he's also saying, oh, not only am I going to do the blockade, but I'm also going to get paid for it. I'm going to do a toll system, okay? Because Iran did it. But the other side of the story that I was thinking about is the whole like, if you kill me, we have missiles trained on Iran and we will destroy Iran thing that he came out and revealed a couple weeks ago. That is literally the American version of the Mosaic defense system. He is just copy pasting everything that Iran has been doing. It's so funny. Now, obviously, it's not going to work because we've been blowing up Iran nonstop for like the last 150 days. That didn't stop them at all. But it is hilarious that he's just looking at whatever the fuck Iran is doing. And he's like, this seems like a great idea. This seems like a great idea. If I die, we're gonna we're gonna destroy Iran, unlike what we've done so far. Praise be to Allah. He really liked what Iran did after they killed the Ayatollah, so we wanted to copy and paste it. Praise be to Allah. We have decided we're changing something. We're changing something that we've done so far in our elections. I've decided we are going to have 88 clerics decide who the next supreme leader of the United States is. There is no dead man switch in the U.S. plan of succession, as I'm sure you know, come to think of it. Yeah, he's decided he's going to do a dead man switch, which is, you know, what Iran had, and he liked it. He's just fucking reheating the IRGC nachos here, okay?
Others will do the same thing. But I think we've made tremendous progress.
So your objectives are to ensure that Iran never has a nuclear weapon, to keep the strait open, and to degrade the Iranian military. Can those objectives be completed in an air campaign alone? Or does this require a ground component?
Well, I think they're completed now, honestly. If we left right now, it would take them 20 years to rebuild what they have. The only way you can negotiate with these people is through strength. And the only strength is military strength. And that's what we've done. And I mean, literally 2 days ago, we had a deal And then they broke it at the last moment. They broke it.
Will these strikes continue?
They'll continue until I say it's enough. I mean, they'll continue. They've been, the word the military likes to use is degrade. They've been degraded to a very low level. And they have fight. It's like a great boxer. You think you have him beat, and then all of a sudden he comes back and he gives you a shot. They have some fight left, but they don't have much. And their weapon degrading has been incredible at a level. Nobody thought it was possible to do it this quickly.
You posted today on True Social comments that you made back in 1988 about Carg Island. And at the time you said, one bullet shot at one of our men or ships, and I'd do a number on Carg Island, I'd go in and take it.
Yeah.
Do you still intend to take Carg Island?
So I can't say that to you because if I did, it would be foolish, right? But it'd be nice to make a little headlines, but it would be foolish. But I'll tell you about Carg Island. So we've already...
Are you ruling out a ground campaign in a limited capacity?
I don't want to say that either, but I would say no if I thought it was appropriate. I'd say sometimes you need a ground campaign, but we have other people that will do the ground campaign for us. But we already hit Carg Island, as you know, twice. Even 3 times. I said, hit everything but the oil. Just leave that little area from 25 yards out. Leave that little area. Don't touch the oil. Because I don't want that in terms of the world economy. It's a chunk of the world economy. So we haven't hit that. At some point we could. But I think it's unlikely. As far as taking it is concerned, if we degrade them far enough and deep enough back, I would do that.
Do you anticipate that the strikes we're seeing this week against Iran will expand? Are you considering hitting energy targets or other locations inside of Iran?
I'll save the energy targets for last, but ultimately we'll hit energy targets, yeah. But we're going to hit them very hard tonight. We're going to hit them very hard tomorrow night. We're going to hit them very hard the night after. And then next week it gets really bad for them because next week comes the power plants. Next week comes the bridges. We're going to knock out all their power plants. We're going to knock out all their bridges.
Nothing he has said so far is new, by the way. So it obviously bears the question. It didn't work last time. You had to do a MOU. You had to do a ceasefire. So what makes you think that this posture and, claiming you're going to do unlimited war crimes on Iran is going to change the dynamic in any way, shape, or form? Because he did this. I was in fucking Michigan last time he threatened to do this. Remember? That was when I was doing the stumping of the campaign rally with Abdul El-Sayed the day of, where Trump came out and was like, a civilization dies tonight. It's really funny that every time Trump talks about what he wants to attack, he has to essentially concede that Iran, a nation he's repeatedly called barbaric and civilized and uncivilized, is actually very adept, advanced, and has incredible power and control in the region that affects the whole world. Damn, Iran got hands. I mean, he did admit that. He said, like an old boxer, they still got a little bit of fight left in them. Because they do, and they have. They haven't stopped. So the question I have is, what changed? And the question I have for Trump's statements is,
what gives?
Unless they get to the table and negotiate.
Do you believe the Iranians are serious about making a deal?
I think they have no choice.
Why haven't they yet?
I think if I didn't do the way I'm doing, they would never make a deal. They would have never made a deal with Obama. That deal was the worst deal. What they did sign was a worthless piece of paper. What they signed with Obama was a worthless piece of paper that was a road to a nuclear weapon. And what I have is a wall. There will be no nuclear weapon. I'll never sign. And when you listed the 3 things, by far the most important is they will not have a nuclear weapon.
Take me back to the moment before February 28th, when you made the decision to launch Operation Epic Fury. Was there a specific piece of intelligence that made you decide to launch this operation?
Well, it was specific in the sense that it just never stops, and they're going to go forward, and they wanted a nuclear weapon. We knew they wanted a nuclear weapon. If they have a nuclear weapon, Israel wouldn't be here. Look,
I mean, what do you say to any of it? None of this is new. None of this is new. What are we doing? What the hell are we doing, man?
They said they didn't want a nuclear weapon.
Even Trey's like, I heard that they didn't. No. They wanted it. They wanted it. Vietnam took so much longer. This is not as long as Vietnam. Okay. Great.
They say that. Everything they say is a lie. They lie. I've never seen anything like it. They also come out and they'll tell you we never discussed nuclear, and we're in a room for 5 hours. That's all we discussed. And they'll walk out and say, nuclear was not discussed. Everything was discussed ad nauseum. They were going to have a nuclear weapon.
It's kind of funny that for the longest time, whatever the American administration said was just the truth, right? But nowadays, because of the internet and because of the nature of this conflict where America is waging war against the foreign adversary that's an established sovereign nation state, we have unprecedented access to hear from the other side. And this has actually frustrated the administration directly. Our boys over at Dropsite News, as always, are doing the Lord's work by directly reaching out to the Iranian side and hearing what their perspective is. We have unprecedented access to the Omanis. We have unprecedented access to the Iranians. This is not like a Hamas versus Israel style situation where Israel can control all of the communications, right? So like, it's really funny. The Iranians told Jeremy that Iran sent a message to JD Vance warning that Kushner and Witkoff were abusing their inside access to negotiations. A senior Iranian official said Tehran privately told Vance the pair were exploiting the negotiations for financial gain. The White House has, of course, denied it, which is the least surprising turn of events, right? Because we've seen Kushner do this every single time. So it's not in any way, shape, or form a surprise to anyone that's been paying attention to the Abraham Accords, to the way that the Kushners operate, to the way that the Trump family operates, right? And the White House actually came out. The White House came out and said, it's sad that Dropsite News reporters, in air quotes, are so filled with hate for America and devoid of respect for themselves that they have become full-throated propagandists for the Iranian regime.
What gives?
Is this true? Yes, it is true. Turkish-American businessman Hassan Piker has started following Maritime and Port Authority of Singapore. Yes, it is true. I'm looking to do business in Singapore. Like, what do you want? Get off my ass, dude. So yeah, classic Trump moment, classic Trump situation. Never let a crisis go to waste. Obviously, the primary focus for Trump and his allies, his closest allies, are how do we get the bag here? The doesn't matter if we're collapsing the energy markets around the world. Doesn't matter if this is creating tremendous economic pressure even on the United States of America. Doesn't matter if this is actually harming the Republican Party's future prospects. None of that matters. The only thing that matters is who's going to get the bag. Is Jared Kushner going to make money? That's what matters. Art of this deal, art of the steal.
Within 2 weeks, had we not done the B-2 bombers, had we not bombed their nuclear sites, their 3 nuclear sites, and there's another one we're looking at right now, as you know.
Pickaxe now.
We're looking at Pickaxe because somebody said there's a little activity. You know, we have cameras, Space Force, we have cameras that they can read the badge, they can read your name, probably Mohammed. They can read your name on a badge from space. And every area of
He had to hit that. Oh, the badge, probably Mohammed. They always name their children Mohammed. Nice, dude. Funny. I mean, he ain't wrong, but
But the other three are covered.
But specifically
if
on
they
pickaxe,
make
sir.
any move, we immediately go and do whatever we have to do. But they haven't. They were so decimated.
Some
But
weapons
now
experts say that the United States doesn't have the ability to strike deep enough with these bunker buster bombs at Pickaxe Mountain.
They can go deep. We have good stuff. Nobody knows about Pickaxe. By the way, nobody knows if they even are doing anything in Pickaxe. It's just something that comes up. We have cameras on it. There's very little activity there. But if there's even just a small amount, we'll hit it, and we'll hit it hard.
I want to ask you about the Telegon facility. It's outside of Tehran, and it was hit in U.S. strikes previously. These are satellite images from June and July.
Okay.
And on June 22nd, you can see activity at this site.
Yeah.
And then on July 7th, there is movement. There are trucks and cranes, and in that image, freshly poured concrete.
Right.
What do these images say to you?
What I'm hearing is that they put, and what they've watched it, that they poured concrete to close up the entrances so we couldn't get into it. So that's what they're saying. But we can hit that one very easily. You know, it only takes a matter of minutes for us to do it and do major damage. And when they know it's coming, they disappear. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm seeing here.
And sir, on Monday, you announced that the United States is reimposing the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports.
Started now.
Shipping data trackers indicate that just 10 vessels passed through the Strait of Hormuz on Monday, less than 10% of what normally goes through this critical waterway. When you say the strait is open, what do you mean?
It's open if people want to go through it. We're not opening it for Iran. That's the only one it's closed for. It's closed for Iran, both in and out, but it's open now. A lot of things.
Mr. President, you're giving me conflicting signals. It seems to me like it's not open because you're now implementing a secondary blockade on top of the Iranian blockade, and the Iranians are saying that the Strait of Hormuz is not open. So it doesn't seem like it's open at all. What do you say to that? It's like, it's open. I promise you it's open. It's more open than it's ever been. It's so porous. It's just closed for Iran. But if you are a brave shipper, you can pass through with ease. It's not a problem. Uch. Not exactly sure how it can be open while it's closed by both the Iranians and closed by the Americans. But I guess it's loose. The Hormuz is loose.
Things have happened, Trey, in the last few months. Pipelines are being built. We're coming up with great alternatives, including Texas, including Alaska.
You've called the new leadership in Iran a changed regime. Do you still believe that?
Well, I knew the first group for a little while, and they were evil, and they're no longer with us. I knew the second group also a little bit better, and they were evil, and they're no longer with us. And the third group, they have some bad ones in there, some very bad ones in there.
Just some?
And I think they're the ones that are stopping a deal.
So are you negotiating with the wrong people?
Well, now I don't want to negotiate now. I said, let's not negotiate. 3 days ago, we had a deal.
When was the last time you spoke with an Iranian official?
Well, not me, but let's say my representatives. I have spoken to them, but my representatives over the course of, well, actually, an hour ago.
And what message was delivered?
They want to make a deal, but every time they make a deal, they break it. They don't want to die.
It's projection. Everything that he says is pure projection. It's us. We are the ones who keep violating the deal on principle. We are the ones who keep acting as though their side is unclear. And I think most people can see it, especially because Trump is just not a very reliable orator. He does not understand anything and knows even less, and is constantly contradicting himself, oftentimes in the same conversation. Strait of Hormuz is open, but we have a blockade. It's just not a real blockade. It's just a blockade for Iran. Everyone else can pass through, but also Iran is blocking the Strait of Hormuz. So technically, it's not actually open. What are you supposed to do? I mean, again, he contradicts himself so much. He throws out ridiculous shit like the 20% toll system that he was going to implement, who he backed away from in this conversation. And by the way, it's a guarantee that he will say the toll is back on. Just so you understand, if you're confused by this process, tomorrow, the day after, he could just as easily turn back the toll. Okay. This time it's not 20%, but this time it's maybe 5%. So, you know, he's just throwing shit at the wall, seeing what sticks.
People don't want to die. Yeah, about an hour ago.
And what message was delivered?
You better make a deal. You're not going to have anybody left. We're being very careful with the civilian population, as you know, but I said, you better make a deal. You're not going to have anything left.
Are you?
And you think they will?
They should. I don't know if they will or not.
Sir, thank you for speaking with Fox News.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
President Trump also spoke about the investigation into the Manab school strike, his relationship with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and broader topics, including the war in Ukraine. We will have updates throughout the day tomorrow on Fox News. Brett.
We'll run some more sound bites later with the panel. Trey, nice job.
We're
at the
very
White House.
carefully hitting all the civilians.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest.
Channel 12, the head of the Shin Bet, responded to the pressure from Sarah Netanyahu and agreed to grant her lifelong security protection, contrary to the position of professional bodies within the agency. Oh, great. I'm sure the Israeli taxpayers will love that. And by that, I mean, we should love that, right? I mean, we are the Israeli taxpayers.
Make of the timing of this, because we've been talking in the last couple of mornings about the fact that there have been overnight strikes. It takes another level of boldness, potentially also an indication of the kind of threat level to those forces when they operate during the day, surely.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think this marks, by my understanding anyway, by my calculations, the 7th in 8 days worth of strikes. And as you say, it's the first really sort of like during the daytime hours, particularly the volume of which they're doing. I think it's more of an indication that they're starting to degrade in a significant way, anyway, the air defence capabilities along the Persian Gulf.
Where is Michael Clark?
For the Iranian infrastructure that's used to target the cargoes. And here we can see, obviously, CENTCOM footage showing some of these strikes over the last sort of few days. And it's interesting as well, the fact that I think several of us, including myself, were expecting this to almost escalate a little bit more than it has over the last 24 hours. We've seen this period now. I think most people thought maybe 2-3 days, a week tops. And obviously this has gone over the 8-day period where we can start to expect the escalatory ladder, so to speak, rise, where one or other side, more likely the Americans, will actually take more militarily riskier approaches. And as we can see from this latest round today, so far it just seems to be more strikes against military infrastructure on the coast, which is no bad thing in of itself, because if they're being used to target the cargo ships, that's obviously, you know, this is something that does need to be addressed, and the military can do that.
Talk about kind of the measure of risk and escalation. It seems notable, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems notable that in response to these strikes, Iran has been targeting US military infrastructure and sites itself, whether that's in Kuwait, Bahrain, elsewhere, that it hasn't in this round been targeting Gulf states' petrochemical industries and refineries, that Iran seems to be kind of trying to calibrate its response here too.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. 2 months ago, this would have been met with, as you said, strikes against either civilian infrastructure, particularly the tourist infrastructure in the UAE, as well as energy infrastructure across those Gulf states. And the idea by the Iranians was to cause such pressure on America's allies through horizontal escalation that will cause the wedge between the Americans and their Gulf allies, which they need critically to host their military bases to target Iran more directly. By not doing that, I think in the last 30 days we've seen the pressure diplomatically placed on Iran, particularly by states like the UAE, by Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, to sort of limit those just to the American military facilities. And it has to be said, 10 years ago, this would have been almost unfathomable for significant US bases in the region, particularly the 7th Fleet on Bahrain, to be attacked in such a direct manner by the Iranians, to not then incur, like I say, on the escalatory ladder, further repercussions rather than just targeting strikes against missile bases.
It's interesting. It reminds me of 2021, following the killing of Qasem Soleimani, and the Iranians targeted US military bases in Iraq, and they calibrated that response to try and find where they all stood on the escalatory ladder.
Exactly.
with all of this in mind, this is a very different situation. It's much bigger. It's ongoing. It is ongoing. What is the strategy here for the US in particular? Because it seems to be leading the tempo at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. This is actually really interesting when we look at it from the political and the military angle. Now, any military strike or military action is a tool of foreign policy, and the strategy behind it politically hasn't really been conveyed. And I think the strikes that we've seen over the last sort of 7 days, 8 days, it really sort of is an evolution of this conflict, which is still only 4 months old. It's, relatively speaking, a very young conflict. It's yet to mature or to progress into like a middle conflict or a middle war. And, you know, it started off with these sort of decapitation strikes against the Iranian government by the American and Israeli strikes back in February 28th. And now we can really see this is almost evolved into like a war for Hamas, the control of the Straits. So I think we can see this now permeating through the next couple of weeks. But like I say, that escalatory ladder, it's going to be interesting to see who just ratchets his, the notch ever so slightly more to put more pressure on the other to come back down.
All right, we're not going to do the JD Vance conversation right now because there's, or at least we can do bits and pieces of it. I'm going to be honest, Pete fucking British would be commenting on all the world conflicts when their nation was the one who set it up for conflict. Yeah, of course. But, you know, I do personally enjoy not watching Michael Clark any longer because Michael Clark got bored of basically repeating the same fucking thing over and over again. They had to bring in new talent to say the same thing, that America's fucked. Trump is live. All right, let's see what Trump is saying.
Aren't strong, or that shouldn't be there. And it's like, I call it central casting. Washington, D.C., we're using the military in there, and our crime rate's down 92%.
Oh,
and it's gone.
Also, yeah, before we get into the Pennsylvania Defense and Innovation Summit, there's obviously something I have to give you. We already covered the drop site piece. Hakeem Jeffries, Israel. Oh, here it is. Ladies and gentlemen, the Department of War is making some changes. The Department of War is making some changes. Pete Kegsbreath has decided our units, our soldiers are not fuckable enough. Okay? There's a real crisis taking place in the Department of War, in our war fighters, in their hearts and their minds and their souls even. But more importantly, their bodies. They are not fuckable enough. We got to make sure that they're sexy. They're low T. We got to make sure they got high T. Let's take a look.
At the Department of War, we have the most elite warriors on the face of the earth. Every single day, you are pushed to your absolute physical and mental limits to master the profession of arms. We demand your all, and you give it. But while we invest heavily in our weapon systems, platforms, and gear, our most decisive tactical advantage will always be the individual warfighter. We have a sacred duty to maintain that advantage, which is why we must constantly look for new ways to optimize your performance, your resilience, and your long-term health. And to meet that commitment today, I'm authorizing a new screening